Hello, everybody. Where did the weeks go? I just did an entire video on week 3, and it's week 4. So I am doing it over. This week we're doing samplings and surveys, and I thought of my own research methods that I had to do when I was in college. I was a young 40 years old. Okay, maybe it wasn't that young, but to me it was young, since I'm now like 60-something. We won't go with that. But when I looked back at that, I did a survey in Westfield. I did it with the Russian population. And I did it on their fear factor of the Russian population with the police department. I did it as a civilian, and I did it in Powder Mill Village, which was predominantly Russian. It was about 85% Russian and Ukrainian. And when I look at that, I knew that I had some hurdles I had to do. But I didn't take into account a couple of them. One is when people hear Russian, they think there's only one language, but there's not. There's actually quite a few. There's Russian, there's Ukrainian, there's Moldovan, and there's English. And so my survey had to be done in all of those languages, And what I didn't take into account also was that even though I went door to door to each house and I got the list from the management, who I was very surprised they gave me the list of every apartment. But they knew me as a police officer, and I actually lived there at one point in time. So I knew the manager there very well, and I told him what my survey was going to be about. So I went door to door, and I had a translator with me, and the translator would tell them what I was doing, what my survey was for, and what the purpose of it was for. And my purpose was that if I found out what their fear factor was, we could work on a common communication, a common ground to make it so they didn't fear us. I also didn't take into account that the KGB was still alive in their mind at that time. In fact, some people that I talked to were part of the KGB when they were back in Russia. And people, the Russian population, the Ukrainian population, they feared the KGB, the police. So to give factual answers, it was still too early in the game for them to do that, especially knowing, even though that there was a civilian, they knew me as the liaison for the Westfield Police, and I spent many, many days in the churches meeting with the different parishioners. So I still was the police to them. I needed to take that into better account. And looking back at that, I would probably do a blind study now and not be the face of that study. I still think it was a very important study, and I think that there's some things that we did get out of that was that we put community policing right in Powder Mill Village. We put it there. We put it with a person who could actually, a police officer who spoke, the Russian, part Polish language. He did better than I can do with English at times. And then we worked on just meeting and greeting them. But at the time, that survey, I'm pretty sure, was pretty skewed, and I'm pretty sure I didn't get the right answers. Hindsight is 2020. Then I thought of a new survey that just came out recently, and it had to do with the GOP and their media survey, and it was put out. To me, it was a very biased study. I'm going to get the exact name of it so you can look it up because it was a very it was called the Mainstream Media Accountability Survey. The Mainstream Media Accountability Survey. It was put out by the GOP. Take a look at it, read it, and you know what? It doesn't take much to see that it's biased. Well, a week after that survey was done, and by the way, I took that survey. Not once, I took it twice. The first time they put it, because they didn't put anything into their survey from stopping me from taking it twice. That's another thing you have to think about. How many people, it's like voting on The Voice. How many times do you vote? But I voted twice. So I was counted twice. But who was it geared toward? Who was that survey geared to? Well, they didn't like it, so they had it done again a week later because they felt too many Democrats took it. My thought on that is if you're going to do a survey on the media and what you think about it, then you have to include everybody. Every party gets to be included. The Green Party, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, all those parties matter. And they didn't on that survey. So I wish you guys a bunch of luck this week, and I hope you take a look at it. Maybe you want to throw it into your paper and show that and how you find a proper sampling and where do you get your sampling. For me, it was easy. The vast majority of the Russian population lived in one location. But where do people get their sample surveys from? If you were to interview women in law enforcement, we're pretty close to the vest. Are you going to get a truthful survey sample? Not unless it's blind, and not unless it's no way traced back. So I wish you guys the best of luck. Week 4, you were way over the hump, and you're all doing really well. So keep up the good work. Have a good night.